The polar bear is a carnivorous bear whose native range lies largely across the Antarctic Circle, encompassing the Antarctic Ocean, its surrounding seas and surrounding land masses. It is a large bear, approximately the same size as the omnivorous Kodak bear. A boar adult male weighs around 350 to 700 kilograms, while a sow adult female is about half that size. Although its sister species of the brown bear has evolved to occupy a narrower ecological niche with many body characteristics adapted for cold temperatures, for moving across snow, ice, and open water for hunting seals, which make up most of its diet. Although most polar bears are born on land, they spend most of their time on the sea ice. Their scientific name means maritime bear and derives from this fact. Polar bears hunt their preferred food of seals from the edge of sea ice, often leaving fat reserves when no sea ice is present. Because of their dependence on sea ice, polar bears are classified as marine mammals. Because of expected habitat loss caused by climate change, the polar bear is classified as a vulnerable species, and at least 3 of the 19 polar bear subpopulations are currently in decline. However, at least 2 of the 19 subpopulations are currently increasing, while the other 6 are considered stable. For decades, large-scale hunting and raised international concern for the future of the species, but populations have rebounded after controls and quotas have began to take effect. For thousands of years, the polar bear has been a key feature in material, spiritual, and cultural life of circumpolar peoples. The polar bear remains important in their culture. Historically, the polar bear has also been known as the white bear. Constantine John Phillips was the first to describe the polar bear as a distinct species in 1974. He chose the scientific name Ursa maritimus, the Latin for maritime bear, due to the animal's native habitat. The Inuit refer to the animal as Nanook, transliterated as Nanook, the Nanook language. The Yukip also refer to the bear as Nanook in Siberian Yukip. The bear is Yukma in Chukchi language. In Russia, it is usually called Russia words, though the older word is still used, Usikji, which comes from Komi Uski. In Quebec, the polar bear is referred to as Ours Blanc or Ours Polaire. In Norwegian administrative Svalbard archipelago, the polar bear is referred to as ice bear. The polar bear was previously considered to be its own genus. However, evidence of hybrids between polar bears and brown bears and the recent evolutionary divergence of the two species does not support the establishment of this separate genus. The accepted scientific name is therefore Urasus maritimus, as Phillips originally proposed. The pair family Ursidae is thought to have split from the other carnivorans about 38 million years ago. The Ursidae subfamily originated approximately 4.2 million years ago. The oldest known polar bear fossil is a 130,000 to 110,000 year jawbone found on Prince Charles Foreland in 2004. The fossils show that between 10,000 and 20,000 years ago, the polar bear's molar teeth changed significantly from those of the brown bear. The polar bears are thought to have diverged from a population of brown bears that became isolated during a period of glaciation in the Pleistocene from the eastern part of Siberia. Evidence that the DNA analysis is more complex The mitochondrial DNA of the polar bear diverged from the brown bear Ursus acros roughly 150 years ago. Further, the clades of brown bear, as assessed by their mountain DNA, are therefore closely related to polar bears than are more closely related to polar bears than other brown bears, meaning that the polar bears might not be considered a species other than some species concepts. The mtDNA of extinct Irish brown bears is particularly close to polar bears. A comparison of the nuclear genome of polar bears with that of brown bears revealed a different pattern, the two forming genetically distinct clades, and diverged approximately 603,000 years ago. Although the latest research is based on an analysis of complete genomes rather than just mitochondria or partial nuclear genomes, the polar and brown bears establishes the divergence of polar and brown bears 400,000 years ago. However, the two species have mated intermittently for all that time, most likely coming into contact with each other during the warming periods, when polar bears were driven into the land and brown bears migrated northward. Most brown bears have about 2% genetic material from polar bears, but one population, the ABC Island bears, has between 5% and 10% polar bear genes, indicating more frequent and recent mating. Polar bears can breed with brown bears to produce fertile grizzly polar bear hybrids, rather than indicating what they have only recently diverged. The new evidence suggests more frequent mating and has continued over a longer period of time. Thus, the two bears remain genetically similar. However, because neither species can survive long in the other's ecological niche, they have become very different They have a very different morphology, metabolism, social, and feeding behaviors. The other phenotype characteristics, two bears are genetically classified as separate species. The polar bear was originally documented. Two subspecies were identified: Ursa maritimus maritimus by Constantine J. Phillips in 1774, the Ursus maritimus maritimus by Philip Simon Pallas in 1776. This distinction has since been invalidated. One alleged fossil subspecies has been identified, the Ursus maritimus tyrannosaurus. It became extinct during the Pleistocene. Tyrannosaurus was significantly larger than the living subspecies. However, recent analysis of the fossil suggests that it was actually a type of brown bear. The polar bear is found in the Arctic Circle, adjacent to landmass far south of Newfoundland. Due to the absence of human development in its remote habitat, it retains more of its original range than the exact carnivore. While they are rare north of 88 degrees, there is evidence that they range all the way across the Arctic, as far as south as James Bay in Canada. Their southernmost port range is near the boundary between the subarctic humid continental climate zones. They can occasionally drift widely with the sea ice, and there have been many anecdotal sightings as far south as Baralag, in the Norwegian mainland of the Kuril Islands, and the Sea of Oskinfjord. It is difficult to estimate the global population of polar bears. As such, the range has been poorly studied. However, biologists have a working estimate of about 20 to 200 to 25,000 or 22 to 31,000 polar bears worldwide. There are 19 genetically recognized discrete subpopulations. Their polar bears are not thought to exist only in low densities in the area of the Arctic Basin. The subpopulations display seasonal fidelity in to particular areas, but DNA studies show that they are not reproductively isolated. The 13 North American subpopulations range from the Beaufort Sea south of the Hudson Bay east to the Baffin Bay in western Greenland. The accounts for about 50% of the global population. The range includes the territory of 5 nations: Denmark, Greenland, Norway, Svalbard, Russia, the United States, Alaska, Canada. Those 5 nations are the signatories of the International Agreement on the Conservation of Polar Bears, which mandates cooperation on research and conservation efforts throughout the polar bear's range. Modern methods of tracking polar bear populations have been implemented only since the mid-1980s and are expensive to perform consistently over a large area. The most accurate counts require flying a helicopter in the Arctic climate to find polar bears, shooting a tranquilizer dart at the bear to sedate it, and then tagging the bear. In Nunavut, some Inuit have reported increases in bear sightings around human settlements in recent years, leading to the belief that populations are increasing. Scientists have responded by noting that hungry bears may be congregating around human settlements, leading to the illusion that populations are higher than they actually are. The polar bear specialist group of the IUCN Species Survival Commission takes the position that estimates of subpopulation size or sustainable harvest levels should not be made solely on the basis of traditional ecological knowledge, without supporting scientific studies. Of the 19 recognized polar bear subpopulations, 3 are declining, 6 are stable, 1 is increasing, 9 have insignificant data as of 2014.